This is A Shot of Hope, recovery stories from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm Vic King, chaplain at Helping Up Mission. Well, our story today is Ramon. He's one of the two graduates that we followed most closely throughout our Road to Hope video. It's the longest, most in-depth video we ever produced, and it follows in particular the stories of T, one of the first graduates from our women's program, and Ramon, whose story you hear on the podcast today. I encourage you to check it out if you haven't yet. You can view it on Helping Up Mission's YouTube channel, Facebook page, or on our website at helpingupmission.org/grad2020. I'll include a link to that in the show notes. So we hope you'll enjoy him sharing his story of addiction and recovery in his own words.
Well, my name is Ramon Antonio Crusade Jr. I'm 39 years old. I'm originally from Dominican Republic. I was raised in Texas. So I've only been in Maryland for about 4 years, maybe going on 5 now. You know, I was actually born in Guatemala because my parents went to school in Costa Rica. So I from Guatemala, we lived in Costa Rica for a little bit, then I went back to the Dominican Republic and then to Puerto Rico for about 4 years, and then we came to the States. In between Puerto Rico and the States, we lived in the Virgin Islands for a year. When my dad graduated from college, he took a job as a PE teacher, in St. Croix. Yeah, I just remember my father and mother did a good job of making us feel safe. That's why I've never liked to be in one place for very long. I got used to moving and built character. I like meeting new people. I love cultures. I'm very blessed that I'm bilingual. So I know fluent Spanish. And my mom being a school teacher, before I came into school in the United States, I already knew how to read and write Spanish. So in Puerto Rico, I was already in the first grade, but when I got here, because of the language barrier, they moved me back to my correct age group. I was very adventurous. I loved the outdoors. I loved animals. So I used to go on a lot of hikes, and what was really fascinating were reptiles, turtles primarily. So before I became my early teens, I was a lot into, outdoors and hiking and exploring the wilderness. Then I got into football. Yeah. So that was teenage before I got into high school. Once I got into high school, all my friends and all the kids were just a lot bigger than me. So I turned to basketball. I played more basketball. But so I got to college, I was really into the NFL and stuff. And then in college with girls, that's when I started partying and stuff. I stopped really getting into sports and stuff. I was a good kid, and I wasn't scared of my parents, but I really respected my parents' wishes, and I learned a lot about it this year, actually, because I tried to regain some of the roots. I think especially the Seventh-day Adventists from the United States are way more secular than they are abroad, but even though the religion was started here. But my parents, what they taught was nutrition and health. So it's any kind of substance. We didn't really even do Tylenol it had to really be like a doctor prescribed it or whatnot. But like my parents, no caffeine. I just celebrated a year in my AA group that I attend. So I'm proud about that. I haven't done that in 15 years. So
Congrats, man.
Not just sober, but actually I worked, at my recovery. Yeah. Not going or just staying away from it, because before that's what I've done, and it's not worked out very well. It was off to the races because that first night I drank 2 40-ounce beers and I smoked a joint, and that's kind of like how I continue my substance use. So I never did I'm out with a girl and I have a beer, or I never did it casually. I don't know if it was because I know it was a taboo, and I know I was doing wrong, that I was just like all or nothing. I always did it to get drunk. I always did it, in excess. What helped me out is, since none of my family really suffers or abuses substances because they're Seventh-day Adventists, I would get moments of guilt and just go easy for 8 months, 6 months here and stuff like that. All my friends were pretty heavy users. We didn't see it as addicts, we weren't alcoholics, I got caught up in the college lifestyle, because I went to, even though it was a Christian university, the people hung out, we partied hard. Shortly after I started failing classes, and substances, that's how I know that I have problems with drugs and alcohol. I just don't care. I don't care about my consequences. My father never chased money, but we were always comfortable. So, and since my father didn't gamble, he didn't drink, he was all about the family. He was a hard worker. It was easy for him to accumulate money, manage his finances. And I was the only one that kept messing up. My sister, I've always looked up to her because she was the eldest and she never had any problems. She has her PhD. She went to a really good medical school. It's a semi-Adventist school, but it's still in the top 5. It's Loma Linda University in California. So I would mess up, and my dad would just help me out. He didn't want me to suffer, so he would clean up my messes. And I'm sure they knew that, but I don't think he knew the extent. So I know he obviously knew that I was partying, but they don't know that lifestyle. So it's not, I don't think they were ever thought to the extent that I was. So the first time, I went home for a little while. And then when I decided to go back to school, I went to California to stay with my sister. And I did good for a while. I think that's the first time I actually had quite a bit of clean time, but still had reservations. I still wanted to party. I didn't see nothing wrong with it because I've always had my family support. It wasn't until this year that I finally came to a realization that, because I asked myself that question halfway through this year, if I was a millionaire, if my wife, I don't have a wife, but if my wife didn't care, would I? And I realized that I would. Like, my mind is still telling me, yeah, I don't see nothing problem with that. So I started realizing that's not same behavior because I don't know if it's because of how I learned how to drink and do drugs. I don't have any control. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it to someone, because my parents ask me all the time, why can't you just stop? I didn't like school, and I felt pressure from my parents to kind of do something acceptable to the church. And, so maybe like be a pastor like my father, or go to business school. And I've always liked radio and TV and film. And I went to California. I would always start school and do good, but then I would network, and then I would drop out, to chase starting my own stuff. And just, if I would have just stood still in my early 20s and just graduated and just been patient. I don't like to live on regrets, but I think things would have been better. But I would always just chase, an opportunity, but the drinking and the partying would always ruin it, every opportunity. So in California, I got involved with independent production companies, and I worked as an assistant producer, set director, and all that stuff. I did some cool stuff. But California it's a place that if you don't have a good moral base, a good group around you, and you're not secure on your beliefs and your principles, you'll get lost in the sauce really easy. So there I got introduced to all the hard stuff. So there, cocaine was available everywhere, pills. Everybody drinks, parties, it's really acceptable. So, and again, I would always go outside, and I would always live like a double life. I would hang out, keep it away from my family, my sister, so it started to be evident, that my sister would come home and she would smoke pot. Like, I didn't think she was coming home that early. They would catch me drinking, I would lose my job. But, they were in denial as much as I was, in the sense that they thought it was just my influences. The low point in California was I really got deep into drugs, and so I lost a bunch of opportunities there. I met a girl, I got engaged, but she partied too. That's to the extent that I did. And then I started managing a really cool French fine dining restaurant, and everything was looking good. And then I just started using again, and it happens so fast. You lose everything, and when you finally wake up, usually it's like everything's gone. And I've finally lost everything, and I got into some trouble I was with some friends, and we were just on a bender one night, and one of my friends decided to rob a convenience store because we were like in a really nice area of Southern California. And so we're like, we can make out with some cash, and we don't gotta hurt nobody. And so we did it. The attendant that was there at the gas station, he didn't attack us or resist. He just kind of was like in shock. So I yelled, "Don't move, I have a gun," which I didn't. And obviously I was intoxicated. And so I got arrested for that. And in California, even if you say you have a weapon, it's 211, whether you do or don't. So I went to jail for that. And that's when I woke up and I was like, what has my life come to? At this point, I was in my late 20s. Because of the charges, I was facing quite some time, which I didn't know that they just do that. They charge you with all these charges just so Orange County has the #1 conviction rate, or like in the high 90s conviction rate, because they charge you with all these charges, and then you cop out to then you cop to like 2 of them, because they drop. So, but anyways, I only did like 3 months. When I got out, they gave me probation because I didn't have a record. So I decided I wanted to move to Houston, where my brother was. And the way they would transfer it is if I did a rehab program. So I went to the Salvation Army in Anaheim, California. So I did the 6 months there, and I graduated, but I did what I needed to do to graduate, but I didn't work on anything. It was just a means to get to Texas. I thought if I was around my brother, everything would get better. And so by this point, I had all these resentments. I was really down on myself. I had a failed engagement. I had blown a lot of opportunities. And then I was too stubborn to say, just stop, dedicate the next 4 years, finish school, intern somewhere, and I was just too hard-headed for that. So I came to California. My brother was working for the Cheesecake Factory. He was almost a general manager. He would open different cheesecakes around Texas. So he had a really good job. So I lived with him, and I wasn't happy, and so I started isolating myself. And then, I've always worked in restaurants because it's good money, and I always do it. I'm gonna get a job at this restaurant, save some money, and then figure out where I'm gonna go to school. But I always gravitate to people who are partying. I started messing up again. And then my brother, who's my younger brother, it was devastating him. Because he didn't know what to do. He started thinking it was his fault. So we started to have issues and problems. And I never, like I said, I never did any 12 steps. I never asked for help. So I would just, anytime I would really get fall hard into my addiction, I would stay at people's houses and instead of coming and getting help. So finally, I started to get into, public intoxications, fights at bars and stuff like that. So my parents were just like, just come home. They lived in New Jersey at the time. So I went home. And as soon as I got there, I didn't know anybody, so I did good. But I started to go to Philly to visit my family on the weekends, so I started drinking again. But I would only do it when I went over there. That wasn't too bad, but I started using again. But I still graduated, and I got a job at a radio station in Annapolis. So I was doing the news there. I was doing some programming, and so I started drinking again. And from that, I started going to bars and got introduced to Baltimore, to the drug scene in Baltimore, and lost my job because I was starting to they caught me nodding out or, just intoxicated at work. And the general manager was really bummed out, because he really liked me. He really liked how I worked. And he even said, if I needed any letter of recommendation, he would give it to me, but he was getting too many complaints from the other staff. And that was a huge blow. Yeah. So I stayed home. I started using it again. So I moved to Philly for like 6 months just to help my cousin with her flower shop, managing it and stuff. And because she doesn't know English that well, and it was a success. But then I relapsed up there, because drugs are even easier to find in Philly, where they're at. So I came back, and I couldn't keep, I would get a job and lose it. So that's when I finally decided to come here. I've never heard of the Helping on Mission. Well, when I heard about it was, my parents, when I finally decided to come here, my parents left. So I came here in March. That January, my parents moved to Florida, and they were retired. And unfortunately, they left me not knowing really where I was. I was, bouncing from couch to couch, staying with different friends that I knew here in Baltimore. But anyway, so a friend that I was with, he would go shoplifting and sell the stuff in like the Lexington market. So I started doing that with him, and I got arrested and went to Baltimore County Detention. So there I met John Resnick. He does the Bible studies with Miss Kim on Mondays. So when I got arrested, I had already been tired, and I was telling God, do something, but I had to keep my habit up. But when I got arrested, I said, okay, God, this is it. I'm done. Make something happen. I met John. I saw him one time. I went to one of his Bible studies in jail, and he said he runs the Uncuffed Ministries. So he said he might know of a place for me, but he didn't say the Helping on Mission. He just said he knew of a place. I said, great. I said, because I'm looking for a spiritual rehab, because I know I need a rehab. I didn't want to get out again and do what I've always done. So whenever I was like 11 days into my stay, so I didn't see him again because I got released the next time I saw the judge. So I got released into Towson. I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And it's crazy because when I went to pick up my stuff, he happened to just be there, And remember, I never got his information. So I ran into him, and I said, hey, I'm free and stuff like that. And he called Pastor Gary, and he brought me here. And I didn't know what I was getting into, but I never, when I got here, I was like, oh my gosh, it was just a blessing. I was willing to go anywhere. Like I was willing to go to pre-detox. I came in with the 18 days clean. Okay. So the hardest is just living with, I'm in a dorm with 30 guys, sharing, a shower, a bathroom. There's people from all walks of life, which is one of the cool things about it. But it also, there's people. Very tiring, yeah. Very tiring. The rules, they're not meant for everybody, but they have to exist. So just the rules. And remember, I'm horrible at staying still. I learned that I hate taking direction, everything, and so that was part of the hardest. And then letting the fog clear. And remember, I'm 39, thinking about all the mistakes, all the times that I should have listened that I didn't. And usually when that would happen, I would go back to using. So that's probably the hardest part. But it's hard to say hard because here at the Helping on Mission, if you're really willing, like I was, like if you're ready, you can surround yourself with so much that it's by 6 months you're like in cruise control, because there's just so many things that can carry you and mold you. So choir. So when I got in, I was doing too much because I was so excited, And I remember everybody was telling me to slow down. But I'm glad I didn't, because it was kind of like when you throw seeds, and the best things will grow or what. So being in choir, brothers in prayer, I would sign up for everything your department would do, which I love. I went to every single Wabana, I went to Credo, I went backpacking. I joined a home group, which I never have. I joined a 12-step home group. In the beginning, I was going to Celebrate Recovery with my TC, Matt Joseph. That really helped. So I really got involved with the art department here, and so all that stuff. It's just, it gets your mind off of it, and it helps you. It helps you just not sit there and go through everything. But then I had people like yourself, my TC, Matt Joseph, Manuel Stewart. And I would still stay in touch with John Resnick, who I actually work for now. making critics at Falls Point. So it's awesome because, you know, I have to expunge some things on my record. So that's also what's made it hard over the years, because some of the portraits I've made, having a record. So that's another thing that this program has helped me in, they're expunging my record. But as soon as I was able to work, before I was eligible to work, John was like, hey, whenever you're ready, I got a job for you. And so that's been a blessing. I can walk there. It's right here in Falls Point. Yeah, Sophie's Crib. So, yeah, so I said we have the best cribs in town. But it's really cool. And he's really flexible. In accomplishments, I just recently did the peer recovery
Training.
CR training so I graduate this Friday, and that Saturday I'm going to do two more days with Dimitri. Yeah, who's a really good, cool friend of mine. You know,
Yeah.
we go to Brothers in Prayer together, but he's helping me out because some of the things that, you know, I wanted to get into ministry and go to seminary school, but what I've seen and I owe it to the hum teaching me to sit still and to just like letting God lead. I want to become a recovery, you know, coach and work in, you know, rehabs or hospitals or wherever. But I got 30 hours and you know, Dimitri's gonna, you know, he told me about another one. So I'm gonna do that. So I want to get be specialized and then see where, you know, where else I can go with that and further those studies. So what I'm passionate about now is I see what it takes now because of this year. Like I see what someone really needs. I know what someone goes through. I want to help people get over that hump. Just get back to themselves. You know, there's many pathways to do it. You know, and I want to show them how, you know, relearn everything. Forget about what you know about God, about religion, about recovery, and start from scratch. You know, essentially that's what I did, and so I want to help guide people through that. So today it's very personal. You know, a personal relationship with God, and I see that. See, I grew up seeing it one way. You know, the Seventh-day Adventist way, and I think God's bigger than that. You know, I think we focus too much on or my Seventh-day Adventist, am I Baptist, am I this? You know, I believe in Christ. You know, I believe He's our Lord. You know, we overthink what he stood for something, and Recover really helped me. We see that, and it's, you know, helping mankind, and you know, and you know, knowing his love, that he loves us, and you know, but you got to find how to love yourself, and that's what I've found. It's like loving myself, loving life, you know, and he made us all different because he has us all here for a reason. And a purpose to, you know, make the world go round, and we messed that up. Trusting God, like I said, when I made that foxhole prayer in jail and he answered it, which that's not how he works, but I think he uses every situation different. And I think he knew I needed that at that time. I don't know what to do. Help me. If you're real and you know what's best for me, figure it out, because I don't know where to go, what to do, and it's just like boom, 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 you know. But then the year I had to work for it, because he just opened the door, you know. But I had to walk through it, and it's honesty, you know. It's completely about being honest with yourself, being realistic. But you know, I know now that. You know, I'm not gonna play around with that. I know some people can have a drink, some people can party, but it's not worth it. Like today, I just think about everything. Like it's something that will bring me pleasure for a few hours. It's not worth, you know, what God has in store for me.
What are you most thankful for today?
Life, my health, and my life. Yeah, and that I never lost my family. I'm so grateful. My family stuck with me, and they're still in my life. But my health, and that I got here now, because I think I was reaching a point in my life where like there would have been no coming back. I feel, Like I walk around and, you know, the city's full of people who probably been out there for 20 years or 40. And I just feel like it was getting worse and worse. You know, God's really bringing me back to sanity. You know, I feel sane today. I feel like I rationalize things. I think things through. I've realized where I have anger issues or where, you know, I think, you know, I grew up a little spoiled. I think, you know, in life you have to compromise. In life you have to adapt and accept people, meet people where they're at. And it's as cliche as it sounds, you got to be the bigger man. You know, you can't, I was speaking to my friend Brett, who's graduating today, and I was telling him, we were having a talk yesterday, and he was getting all mad. You know, he came visit me at work, and we were walking back, and he was just telling, I was like, Brett, I know it, you know, your ego doesn't like to hear this, but that person's gonna, whether you fight him or not, because if someone was bumped into him, and I said, he asked me what I would do, and I said, I would just move out the way. You're not gonna change that guy. You're just gonna cause problems for yourself. You might even get arrested or beat up. You don't know if he has a gun, you know. So I've learned to just chill out and think, apologize, you know, learn how to apologize, you know, because I do lose my cool sometimes, or I say the wrong thing. It feels really good now it feels really good to admit when you're wrong, like or go apologize to somebody. I'm very grateful for where I am spiritually, mentally, and physically. Cool. I hope I made sense, because there's just so much this year. Like it's hard for me to just, like, you know. Yeah. It would, but yes, you're at the right place. Like you're at the right place. Just leave everything at that door and just brace yourself, and you know, God brought you here. Yeah. I was like 40 pounds lighter.
Pretty sweet.
But yeah. Just you don't worry. Like you're praying, and you're everything you wanted. The start you wanted is starting right now.
One more quick note before we end. When Ramon and I were recording part of his portion of the Road to Hope video, he was telling me about his passion for becoming a recovery resource for the Latin American community. And I asked him off the cuff if he'd be willing to speak to that in Spanish, in Espanol. And he did, beautifully. And we included it in the final portion of the Road to Hope video, but I wanted to also include it here.
Hola, vengo a hablarles a ustedes de una historia de esperanza. Aquí en la misión de Helping Up, yo he podido encontrar mi nueva relación con Jesucristo, y mi vida ha cambiado totalmente. Como un americano latino, yo estoy bien agradecido de todas las ayudas y los recursos que la misión aquí en Helping Up me ha ayudado y me ha traído. Yo quiero animarlos y pedirles que sigan orando, contribuyendo y apoyando a esta misión, porque cada día vidas son transformadas, no importa de cuál es tu origen, cuál es tu cultura o cuál es tu idioma. Gracias a Dios, todos los que trabajan aquí han dado su vida a Jesucristo y trabajan cada día con una misión, y es la misión de traer más almas a Cristo y ayudar que más almas puedan rehabilitarse y regresar a la comunidad para ser hombres y mujeres también, como Dios ha querido que seamos. Gracias por todo, y gracias por darme esta oportunidad de hablarles al corazón.
Again, you can see and hear more of Ramon's story, as well as other graduates, in our Road to Hope video. You can watch at helpingupmission.org/grad2020. This podcast was produced by me, Vic King, with music by Blue Dot Sessions. If you like this podcast, there's a couple different things you could do that would help us out. One, of course, you could subscribe if you haven't already. Another would be to leave a review on the iTunes store. I've never asked for that before, but I've heard it helps with the visibility of the podcast. And you know what? Even if it doesn't, words of affirmation are pretty powerful. So let me affirm you by saying thank you for including me and for including Ramon in your day. It's good to be included. Again, thank you for listening. See you next time.